Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Chasing Dreams podcast with Charlie and Justin. We're on episode 143, and you listeners don't know this, but we're actually recording a day early.
Yes.
So it'll be released on Saturday, so nice to get it out of the way, I guess, so to speak. Not that, like, it's a nuisance or anything, but...
I'm pretty sure we say that every single time we record on a Friday.
Yeah, just because it's always like... And I know I've said this several times, but you always, like... It's amazing to me, knock on wood, that we haven't had, like, any type of catastrophic event where we haven't been able to record. So
it's come close.
We have been very close. There's been a lot of like Saturday nights where we've recorded, several Saturday nights that we've recorded on Zoom, you know, oftentimes far away from each other, like you or I on vacation or, you know, out of state or whatever. But that's kind of like a metaphor for what the podcast stands for, is just getting it done no matter what and stuff like that. So how's life treating you, man?
Great.
Good.
Had some consistent gym time this week.
Home gym?
So, yeah.
Yep.
So shoulders are a little tired.
Yeah.
Did shoulders twice this week. So it was the only thing I got to do twice. So it was good though. It was real good. It was a good week. So I'm easing back into lower body. So we'll see. We'll see what that looks like next week. Unfortunately, I'm going on vacation after next week. So I'm going to try to go somewhere, but it never works.
You know, where are you guys going?
Myrtle Beach again.
Oh, okay,
so,
yep.
We go to the same place. We're real boring. We go to the same place every year. Do the same exact things. It'll be fun now with the kids because she's getting older. You know, son's almost 2, so she's really getting around, talking and playing. And
when you do stuff with, like, kids, I've always wondered that, like, how much of this is going to register and be remembered. Because it's weird because, like, you think about the consistency of the memories started at a particular time. But, like, I remember glimpses and, like, certain things from when I was, like, very, very, very young. But I don't know how I remember. And my parents will even say, I have no idea how you remember that. You were, like just a baby almost. But, like, you have, like, little glimpses, like these neuro tags that just stick with you. It's weird.
Do you think that you this is something, I mean, we could probably go down a rabbit hole. But do you think that you remember the actual event from, say, 2-3 years old? Is that about the age you're talking about?
Yeah.
Do you think you actually remember the event, or do you remember hearing about it consistently when you were young, and you just can put markers on about when it was?
I don't know.
So the reason I think this is I don't know how to explain it, but I feel like I hear that a lot from people with really good upbringings. You know, really good environment at home where family was the center, and you know, you had a lot of extended family always around.
Yep.
And you always had like them around the kitchen table conversations, like with the old people talking. So I feel like I hear that and I think about that because I have the same thing.
Yeah.
I have memories that I know in my head. I know there's no way I remember that happening. But I can tell you like details from that happening that I shouldn't know. I
think that, I mean, certainly it could be some of that, but I remember like actual, like visually vivid memories of like when, like my first year of preschool. Like I remember that we all had nicknames, and I remember like the exact classroom setup of both of my preschool rooms. And I remember like what we used to do every day. I remember the first day of preschool, I cried because I had this toy from McDonald's that they wouldn't let me bring. So I remember crying. So like, not that preschool's the same thing as 2 or 3 years old.
Well, it's close,
but it's not that shortly thereafter. And I remember like very vivid details from that. So like things that couldn't be like a recollection of like talking with family members or anybody like that. Like I visually remember we had this, like, it was like a wooden, almost like a wooden easel in the classroom, and it had a steering wheel that was on it, like that you could just like pretend like you were driving a car, and we had this like plastic tool set that we used to go under the easel and we would pretend that we were fixing it and stuff. So like certain specifics like that like no one would have access to that other than me. So, and I like I said, I can visually depict it, like it was a blue easel and everything. So I don't know, the memory is pretty wild, like how the brain works and stuff. So I don't know. I mean, I'm sure that there's some things that like, and it's especially because like psychologically there's so much that's awry from what you think it is or different from what you think it is. Like when you talk to, I don't know, like a family member or something, and like you said, they talk about things that are so I don't know, foreign to you, or that you don't remember, but then suddenly you remember them. Or it's like people who have the psychological ability, I think we all do to a degree, where they say that if you lie to yourself so many times, you actually believe that certain things happen.
I know people like that.
And there's like a weird bit of cognition that goes into that. It's very, very strange how the brain works.
Like you can create your own like existence, like things happening that never happened, but because you lied and you believe it.
Yeah, and there's like I've read studies before where, for example, and I wish that I had like the data or links to be able to provide people, but I've heard of studies, like I'm not the one that's actually going and conducting the research or like sifting through the literature, but I've heard that they've done studies with like females, for example, where they tell the female that she's pregnant, and this has been with multiple women, not just like a one-time instance, where they've informed women that they were pregnant and they actually weren't, and they like did like false ultrasounds or whatever, and the women like started lactating and creating breast milk, and they even started showing signs of childbirth, like with like creating a bump in the stomach, and it's all about hormone cascade essentially. Wow. Where the brain believes that they're pregnant, so the hormones start
in gear.
Yeah, and it's insane. Or you have, this is a classic that's been replicated several times, where they give people non-alcoholic beverages and tell them that it's alcohol, and they have trouble standing up, and it's like that psychological positioning where you put yourself in the state of being drunk, just because it's almost like it's like a placebo that actually has validity there.
Huh.
So it's wild, like how powerful the brain is, and I think that's where all the positive thinking stems from. Joe Dispenza, I think it's Joe Dispenza is his last name, is someone that if anybody's listening to this podcast, I would really, really advise listening to Dr. Joe. He is super big on the mind, and he's a doctor of chiropractic, and he's like, I guess, world famous. I wouldn't call him a motivational speaker. I mean, the essence of what he does is such, but it's more about mindfulness and meditation and controlling your thought process, and how you can essentially create the reality that you want to create through vigorous and ongoing and continued practice of fixing your brain. So it's super, super insightful and very, very almost trippy to listen to when he talks about how powerful the brain is. And, we actually spoke with a physician one time, Dr. Pesic, who I would consider him my family doctor, although I don't see him regularly because he's about an hour and a half away, but he's like a naturopath, homeopathic doctor, who dabbles in Western medicine when necessary. So it's not like he's like anti-Western medicine. He's not anti-surgery or anti-prescription medication or whatever. He is surgery and medication and prescriptions at last resort.
Right.
He has written several books on nutrition. He and I differ nutritionally on some things. He's a plant-based practitioner. He has his own supplement, like organic herbal supplement line that he promotes and stuff. So real smart dude. He's, I don't want to say anti-meat, but he's not very big on an animal-based diet. It's almost like probably 95% plant-based, which I tend to disagree with that a little bit, but that's a professional disagreement that we have. But he's really, really good. And he's had several patients that he's had over the years, like that have had cancer, that have beaten cancer. And he said that he's also lost people to cancer. And many of the cancer patients that he's treated have been without the introduction of chemotherapy or radiation therapy or like your typical Western medicine implements. And his biggest thing, as he told me, he said the biggest difference between the people that get over cancer and don't get over cancer is their mindset. He said 100%. He said every single person that comes into the clinic that gets that diagnosis that says, I'm going to beat this, he said it is a 100% certainty that in his experience that those people will be able to beat it. And he said it's the opposite. The people that are fearful and have anxiety, which ultimately that's not really in your control.
Yeah, you can't really control
you can't control anxiety. You can't control if you think you're going to beat cancer or be unable to beat it.
I'd like to argue that you could, though.
I think that you could with enough routine practice.
Because I was going to say, just like we were talking a little bit ago about you can lie to yourself.
Sure.
so much that you believe it.
Yep.
So
I think that you probably could lie to yourself. And I think we talked about that one time, you and I, briefly mentioning it in passing. I don't even remember what we were talking about, but it was somewhat recently where we said on the podcast about being positive and lying to yourself first and faking it, faking the smile, faking the body language, because then eventually that becomes like muscle memory in a sense, that you can train yourself to be a more positive person, which is something that I've strived to do over the years. I feel like I'm a lot. I say this cautiously because it's tough for me to admit, but I feel like I come across as a much nicer person than I am sometimes. Meaning, like, I've had people tell me about like patience and stuff like that, and how I seem to exercise a good deal of patience and stuff like that. So I'm thankful for that. It's taken me a long time to get to that point, and also there's a lot of the like grin and bear it type deal with me, where I have a pretty low threshold, just like a lot of people. I'm just better at hiding the threshold, if that makes sense. So, but regardless, the I don't want to say the fake positivity, because I feel like it sends a bad message, but like you want to get in a mentality where you're making an effort to try to be positive with everything, because eventually that repetitive practice starts to become habitual, and then you will be positive in nature, I think. Right. So that's one thing that I've been trying to do a lot of and think about, is thinking about what I'm thinking about.
It's almost like the water boy, like visualize an attack.
Yeah.
I mean, I know that's a really cliche and like a bad movie reference, but visualize an attack. If you want to be positive, you have to act like you want to be positive.
Mm-hmm.
If you want to lose weight, you have to act like you want to lose weight. If you want to be a millionaire, you have to act like you want to be a millionaire.
Yeah, there's a lot of people that I encounter all the time that, let's take bodybuilding for an example, like that say they want to be a bodybuilder, but there's a difference between wanting to be something and wanting people to think that you are something.
Right.
Go ahead.
You have to want it.
Yeah.
And you have to act like you want it.
And you have to, as corny as it sounds, you have to want the process of becoming that, not the end goal.
Right.
So if you want to be a millionaire, like everybody wants to be a millionaire, but very few people want to have the path that they need to take in order to become a millionaire. So if you had a conversation with people and explained to them what it would entail to become a millionaire, like if I said to you, Justin, I'm going to outline the path for you to create your own business and become a millionaire, every person's going to be like, oh yeah, just give me the plan, I'll do it. But then if it comes down to 30 years of the most grueling, emotionally and mentally draining work, the disruption of your family life, like all this stuff. Not that I'm saying everybody who is a millionaire has undergone that, but there's like a lot of trials and tribulations that are often associated with success at any level. So like you'll have to go through that. Same thing with bodybuilding. Like people say, oh, I want to look like that. It's like you want people to think you're a bodybuilder, and you want the notoriety of being a bodybuilder. You want to look like one, but you don't actually want to do what it takes to get there.
Yeah, you don't want to spend the time. You don't want to spend the effort.
Yeah.
Most people. I'm not saying everybody, because there's a lot of people that do.
And there are some people that want to do the bodybuilding thing and do everything, but just don't have genetic capabilities to get to where they want to get. It's same thing with everything, like millionaires. Mm-hmm. I know people that do everything in their power work-wise, and they're not millionaires. That doesn't mean that they're doing anything wrong. It's just some of it's luck, which here we are. That's the whole point of us having this podcast, is to try to create avenues that we can be successful in and figure out what's the path.
Right.
Which is a lot easier said than done. And we've been doing this for 2.5 years now and still have not figured out any answers. Right. We've had some clues and some leads and some consistencies, but
I think we're definitely starting to get the foundation to put a roadmap in place. Just the foundation. Like, we're getting the ink, we got the paper, and now we're learning how to actually draw the lines.
Well, and I think that you and I have done enough growth professionally, where you and I have grown as professionals, grown in our families, grown in fitness life, and we've interviewed enough people and talked to enough people where we've pieced their stuff together as well. And there is certainly overlap, which is the ideology behind forming this, was finding the overlap of all these successful people and connecting like that best fit line that we talk about. And like one of the things that just pops in my head is family.
Mm-hmm.
Like I feel like every guest that we've had on talks about the importance of family. And I say that vaguely as a term, not necessarily just immediate family, although certainly a bunch of them that was the case, but even friends or support group or loved ones. Like family doesn't just necessarily mean in the literal sense
Right.
of like the people that you were born into or the family you're born into. There's also the extended family of your friends, your colleagues, your very close people.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
there's overlap there. And
the cliche that you can't pick your you can pick your friends, but you can't pick your family. I don't subscribe to that. I think you physically, your blood family, yeah, you can't pick them, but you certainly can pick the people that you put all your trust in, you put all your faith in, you surround yourself with consistently. Those are your family.
And I think that with that, when it comes to people, because we often make life choices based on things that, like, you hear about the necessity of making life choices on if it's helping you or hurting you. One thing that my coach Austin posted one time is he posted this on his story, his Instagram story, like probably 2 years ago, maybe. And this is all, it resonated with me and it's always stuck with me. And it's something that like I've never even told him that I took away from him, but I've always thought about this. It said, think about what you want the most and eliminate everything that isn't that.
That's good.
So like if you want to be a supportive father, that's what you want the most. Take away everything out of your life that's not helping you achieve that goal. Now, there are certain things that you'll have to do some kind of like research and figure out, like some soul searching. Is this helping me? Like take the gym time. On one end, you could say, well, going to the gym is spending time away from my daughter, but going to the gym is making me healthier to be able to do more with my daughter and be there for her long term and stuff like that. So it's not as simple of a task of just eliminating or not. But he said that, and that kind of resonated with me. And I think that you choose people the same way, or should choose people the same way. Like, is this person beneficial to me? Is it someone that I want to be around? Is it someone that's helpful, etc.? And like, I think as you get older, at least with me, as I've gotten older, I've had less patience or tolerance for things that aren't helping.
Right.
So, for example, without getting into too much detail, I was working with a company or having a service from a company. And I am friends with one of the reps for the company who was providing me with a particular service. And I signed up for the service and he gets like kickback, like essentially commission for that. Well, there were multiple issues with the company where my order was messed up twice. My personal information was uploaded to a database or into the database under someone else's name because they switched up our accounts. And my credit card information was hacked because their system got hacked.
Wow.
So I discontinued the service. Long story short, my buddy contacts me and said, hey, are you no longer with us? And I said, no, here's what happened. And he said, well, is there any way that we can get your business back? Like, what if I give you 3 months free of this and that? And I said, listen, dude, I said, with all due respect, this is absolutely nothing personal. I said, but my life is too short for me to have to deal with having low expectations for people or for myself or for things. If you're not able to meet the standard of performance that I'm paying for, then I can't do it. I said, I'm not going to go back and continue to put myself in a bad situation. This is like being in a toxic relationship, ending the relationship and thinking the person can change and say, oh, I'm going to go back and try it again.
Right.
It's like you jumped in the pool, you got wet, you dried off, and then you're thinking, maybe if I jump in the pool, I won't get wet again. And so I explained to him, this is absolutely nothing personal, brother, but I'm at the point in my life where time is too short and time is dwindling, and I can't spend it like doing things like this.
We can't be frivolous with our time.
Yes.
Yes. Plain and simple. When you're 16 years old, you be frivolous with your time.
Yeah.
But when you're in your 30s, and you're creeping into, I don't want to, dare I say, middle age.
Hey.
But dare I say, middle aged, we are no longer afforded the ability to be frivolous with our time, so we have to choose.
Sure.
Like your friend from college that would just literally walk away from you and say, this is not making me any smarter.
Yeah, he'd hang up the phone and say, I'm not getting any smarter for this conversation, then hang up.
Yeah. That's priceless.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Having the ability to do that, and then surrounding yourself with people that understand you have the ability to do that and are okay with that,
It's like the group at the gym where every time we leave, it's okay, bye.
Yeah.
And then it's gone.
And we're just gone.
And I think that because as you get older, when you talk about, being frugal with your time and guarding your time, I think that when you're younger, time is a lot more simple because it just is your existence. Like, I'm just here. I can spend time here. Versus as you get older, pardon the obvious, but time is money. So if I'm with you, I'm wasting money because I could be doing something else. And I say that under the context of me not wanting to come across like I care only about money. But you care about your future, you care about your family. So then at some point, money does take precedence over certain things.
Yeah.
And the whole time thing is just a very, very important construct that we need to be mindful of at all times. And I feel like every episode we end up going back to this. And I think for me, it's an exercise of self-awareness where I know that still continues to be the biggest downfall for me. Not because I'm not mindful of it, but because it's such a hard habit to get out of.
Right.
Like how some people have a terrible habit of eating junk food, or other people have a terrible habit of being toxic in the relationship. Mine is just not being as protective of my time as I need to be. And I've gotten a lot better, but certainly it's still an issue, you know?
I think at the end of the day, when this whole journey's over with and we have gotten to the point where somebody looks at us and says we're the ones that they want to interview because we're successful.
Yeah.
The theme will be time.
Yes.
Time management.
For sure.
Time, something to do with time, because it's something we come back to all the time. Or we're going to realize it's not that important. One of the two.
Yeah.
I don't think it's the other. I think it'll be like that is the one consistent is family and time.
Yep.
Those are the consistents. Those are the control, so to speak, in the experiment. But I agree. Time.
So I think that in the essence of time, we've actually had a nice little soapbox moment, you and I. So let's go to a quick commercial break, and we'll talk more about the construct of time and how to be safeguarded with it, and continue this conversation a little bit more when we come back. As listeners of the Chasing Dreams podcast, we know that you demand the highest quality at all times. If you're interested in quality, look no further than Beast Mode Baking. Beast Mode Baking aims to bring the highest quality, creative, and of course delicious baked goods to your home with nationwide shipping. All orders need to be pre-ordered to ensure they're packed fresh and shipped out to you as soon as possible. Beast Mode Baking offers a flat rate of $15 for shipping due to the size and weight of the cookies and doughs. So if you're interested in Beast Mode Baking, please contact CEO Shannon Knorr. That's at SKNORR13 on Instagram, and order your delicious baked goods today, because every time you support them, you're supporting the podcast as well. And we are back from our commercial break. All right, prior to the break, Justin, we talked a lot about time, which is a consistent theme for you and I. I mean, we've like hammered the point into an oblivion over the past 2.5 years of like time management, but it's such a consistent theme for me personally, and I know for you as well. But I try not to speak for you, but I just know for me that like I one thing that I have a terrible time with as well is my phone time, my screen time. And I think that part of it is because I'm easily distracted on my phone in a sense, but I also need my phone for work purposes.
Right.
So
Same.
like one thing that I do is I do a lot of Instagram, obviously, which is kind of like branding and promoting my brand. Clearly working with clients on an online space, I need to be accessible through the Trainer Eyes app, which is the app that I use for my online clients. And then, of course, with training, scheduling people and texting all the time. So having my phone on me and doing these things with regularity is a necessary evil, but it's kind of like live by the sword, die by the sword in a sense, because that's like my lifeline that I need to be on all the time. But then I also have all my, I don't want to say vices, but like the things that you like, it's very easy for me to make an Instagram post and start to interact on that post like I'm supposed to, quote unquote, and then get caught scrolling on the Explore feed or doing things that I don't need to be doing.
Right.
Just wasting my time, more or less. So that's definitely something that I'd like to get better at. And I've made mention that I was going to, but it's one of those instances where sometimes you don't know how to get out of the hole you're in.
Right. It takes time to it takes time to develop a plan and an action list to change the behavior.
Yeah.
You know, you
Yeah.
have to have several different angles of research before you can change the behavior of yourself.
Well, and then time moves so quickly that's the other thing that sucks about it is it happens almost immediately where you blink. And I have that now because every year about this fall time, as we're going back to school, everybody's a year older, obviously, than they were the year before.
Yeah.
And that's like a reality check for me because every year I have a new group of athletes and even non-athletes that are graduating, but a group of athletes that I've worked with that are now going to play in college. And it's like that first year, like, oh my God,
yeah,
so-and-so is going to play in college this year. And with all my first-time college kids, it's like a kind of a bittersweet moment. Definitely more sweet than anything, but bitter just in the sense that, like, I had this, like, now I have people, I've gotten to the point now where I have kids playing college sports that I taught when they were in 5th grade.
Woo!
Yeah. So now it's like, it's starting to become
kind of
like,
sets that middle age thing back in place.
Yeah, it does. And it's like, holy cow, because on one hand, I'm 32, but then on the other hand, I'm 32.
Yeah.
So like, it's like, how do you look at it? So it's kind of like a bittersweet time for me, but you realize how fast it moves and all that crap. And that's why the one piece of advice more than anything sports related or training related, the hard work, all that stuff that we pump out to these kids and try to give them is like, just try to savor this experience as much as you can.
Absolutely.
I told someone the other day that it was yesterday, in fact, one of my girls' soccer players that plays in college, I told her if it wasn't for student loans and the cost of school, I would be in school my whole life. Like, I love learning. Yeah. Like college was perfect for me, man. And I know that especially nowadays, there's actually a lot of kids that I dissuade from going to college. And I said, I wouldn't go to college if I were you. I think your skill set would be better off in the workforce immediately. And I think you could potentially make more money without putting yourself in an unnecessary amount of debt. You could get started 4 years earlier on your life or 5 years earlier or whatever. It's a case-by-case basis, depending on what the person wants to do and what their strengths are and stuff. But regardless, it was perfect for me because it was everything that it was a good environment for me to be successful. Number one is I can be very extroverted or very introverted depending on what I need to be. Mm-hmm. Like, I tell people all the time, I'm an extremely good people person who really doesn't like being around people. So, like, I love interaction with people, but I also only have a certain amount of capacity for it because I like being alone sometimes.
Right.
Like, I know everybody does, but I think myself more than the normal person. Like, really likes keeping to myself and stuff like that.
I'm honestly the exact opposite.
I know.
I don't enjoy alone time at all. I lied. I just lied. The only alone time I do enjoy is like especially with my job and all my jobs. My job history in general has been a lot of alone time in a truck by myself. You know, rather I was driving a semi truck or now driving a pickup truck. But that little bit of time, that's where I get to read or listen to audiobooks or listen to podcasts where that's where I get my learning time in because I fill up all of my other time with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 or more people.
Yeah.
All the time. I'm never by myself unless I'm behind the wheel.
See, and I've always been like that with the alone time thing where I've always liked speaking, like public speaking and being in front of large crowds and entertaining people. But at the end of the day, I wish that 95% of my day was alone. Like, I remember being in college and like almost like sociopathic behaviors. Like, I would go out to dinner by myself, like at a very nice restaurant. And then I would go to the movies by myself. And people thought that stuff was weird. And like, it was actually to the point where I wouldn't tell people because if somebody found out I was going, they'd like, hey, can I go with you? And I wouldn't want to go with them. Like, I just like to do it alone.
Yeah.
So there was something about like the solidarity that was very like liberating for me. Like, I just felt like very free because I don't have to talk to people, don't have to do my thing. So that's one aspect of college is the chameleon-like ability to be very people-esque or people-oriented if I needed to be, like in a social setting, or just go to the library and do my thing. The other thing that helped was I'm very learning oriented. Like I love learning new things and discovering new things. So like college is a great learning experience, literally because you're studying there. Um, I'm also very independent, not in the being alone sense, but in a I don't need somebody to tell me what to do and when to do it because I have the directive and the ability to do it myself.
I can make myself do what I need to do.
Yes.
Same here.
And I'm also very self-aware when it comes to that directive of telling myself what to do, when to do.
Right.
So like, for example, I always studied at the library because I couldn't study in my house because my OCD would take over and I'd have to vacuum and then I'd sit down studying and then I'd have to go dust and then I'd have to do laundry. And I found like every little nook and cranny that I needed to fix. And it wasn't me trying to get out of studying or me avoiding studying by any means. It was just my brain could not allow me to focus on it because there were so many other things. So I was very self-aware, which helped me. I love scheduling. Mm-hmm. Like the type A personality type thing that you and I are both like and talking about. So like it was nice to set up my schedule exactly how I wanted. Like in college, especially my senior year, I would get up at the same time every day, regardless if I had classes or not. I would get up at 5 a.m. I would go to the gym and do cardio and do some like yoga-esque type of training and lifted later in the day. I'd come back, eat my first meal, go to classes. Like it was very regimented for me. So college for me was like an awesome, awesome experience just because I felt like it was kind of everything that I needed college provided.
Yeah.
But you have people that are literally the exact opposite, where college is a terrible environment for what they need and what they do.
Yeah.
So I think it's just kind of like a case-by-case thing.
I think it was funny you said that you enjoyed like public speaking, like you like doing it.
Yeah, love it.
So I've been told, and I don't know if it's fact, maybe it's just people being nice to me, but I've been told I'm pretty decent at it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I do it a lot at work. Like I present, you know, at pretty large meetings, you know, relatively frequently, you know, several days a week sometimes. Mm-hmm. And I've been told I'm really good at it, but I hate it. Like I don't hate doing it, but I hate the nerves of doing it.
And see, that's one thing that I think that's why I've had this inclination to public speaking is because I never got nervous. But I think that it stemmed personally for me. I think it stemmed from playing sports because I love sports and I like a lot of different things about them, like the competitiveness. Like that was something that when I stopped playing, I lost. And that's what eventually led me into bodybuilding because I did this kind of like, I tried MMA for a little bit and powerlifting, and I did all these different things because I was trying to find something that I could be competitive in and still get that sense of competition. So there are different things about sports that I liked, but the one thing when I look like retrospectively and I really analyze it for what it is, I realize that I like sports because the entertainment value that I could provide to people. Like I wanted to be like in the movie Gladiator. Is it Russell Crowe where he says, "Are you not entertained?" Like I want to be the man in the arena that like performs for people. And like, that's one thing that I always liked about bodybuilding is not in a conceited, cocky, like everybody look at me type of thing, but almost like felt like I was presenting something special to people.
It's art.
So like I always took a lot of pride in my routines. I wouldn't choreograph my routines necessarily. I would let it free flow. But I always took pride in how I presented my physique.
Yeah.
And like after the last show that I did a couple of years ago, I had like a head judge. I had a guy that I kind of knew whose coach was a pro who was at the show, and he and his coach were talking about it. I had a bunch of people text me a lot of compliments after the show that I'd won. And one of the things that they all mentioned was how my posing was like the best of the show. And I took a lot of pride in that because that was like the presentation thing.
Yeah, that's the goal.
So I think that for me, a lot of the public speaking just came from like almost like providing entertainment value.
Yeah.
Even though I'm not necessarily entertaining people when I'm public speaking all the time. Like it's not like sometimes like you're giving a serious speech or whatever. But I just think having the eyes on me was never really like a point of nerves,
right,
or something that affected me at all. It was always like I didn't mind it. I don't know.
Yeah, and you know, and it's funny because I don't know why I get nervous, but as soon as I start, the nerves go away.
Yeah.
But it's and then initially I'm nervous, or I feel like that everybody thinks it's like you're standing on stage naked.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, well, I know that's nothing for you.
I was going to say, which I essentially am. So that doesn't
that
bother
doesn't
me.
bother him at all. But me, I mean, that would be awkward. So
I think some of it has to do too, I'm sure, with like, this would probably be a good contrast point between you and I, is a confidence thing.
Yeah.
Because
I lack a lot of confidence.
I think that when you look at our childhood growing up, I had a lot, and I felt like, based on the stories and what I know of your childhood, you didn't have any.
None.
So like, I feel like if you're confident in going up and talking in front of people, that's a product of you being confident in other areas. Mm-hmm. Now, I'm sure there's outliers. I'm sure there's people that are confident in life and don't like public speaking, or maybe some people just feel at home when they're on a microphone and they don't otherwise. But I don't know, the entertainment thing is definitely weird, because I was actually talking with one of my deep tissue therapists, just 2 days ago. Yesterday, I can't even remember now, days string together. I was talking to her recently, and I had said that we were talking about this like dichotomy of me being a people person, but also not liking being around people. And it's just this weird sense of emotion that I get that's hard for me to vocalize. And I said that, like, I love talking in front of people, but I also like get a lot of, not social anxiety, but like cringe at the thought of me being in a public place with people, like at a party.
Yeah.
Or something like that.
Or and a big concert venue or something.
Yeah. And I told her, I said that the only way that I could describe it, and I sound like such a, butthole for saying it like this, but like, I think the difference is I love interaction and like being around a ton of people if it doesn't require like exchange and dialogue.
Yeah.
So like, if I'm up there presenting, like if I'm, at a bodybuilding show, or I'm powerlifting and everybody's watching me, I don't mind that. But then if I'm at a party or a get together or an event, like for a family, and it requires a lot of like the interaction thing, then it's tough. But I can relate to what you said about the public speaking thing, because I'm not saying like I'm the friendliest dude in the world and easy to get along with everybody or anything like that. But like, I can also be the person, like you said, you told you're very good at public speaking, but it still makes you nervous and you don't like it. I can go to a graduation party and mingle with people and shake hands and interact with people and hopefully make people feel good about themselves and be personable, but still like afterwards get in my car and be like, oh, thank God that's done.
Yeah.
You
gotta get it done.
So it's kind of like a weird, I don't know, just a weird mindset that sometimes I love it and sometimes I don't. And maybe that's just me being self-aware of like personal threshold.
Right.
Like, I can only tolerate so much human interaction before I need to like shut it down.
I think that's one takeaway for me, for this episode for certain, is self-awareness.
Yeah.
Until you said that, I didn't realize it, but being self-aware of your thresholds or of your expectations of yourself, or your time,
yep.
or all of your things. It's self-awareness in general.
Dude, I'm gonna curtail this conversation now so we can wrap it up, because I could go on for hours about the self-awareness thing. And I think that I'll say this, and hopefully this could segue into the next episode. I feel like a lack of self-awareness is the singular most problematic issue on a social level that our society faces.
Agreed.
Is a lack of self-awareness.
I agree.
How you conduct yourself, the words you say, how you treat other people, how you carry yourself, like everything. Just a complete and utter absent-mindedness and aloofness regarding self-awareness is plaguing our society and killing us.
Absolutely.
And again, I'm already getting started on it, because I have this conversation frequently with people where you sit and you think like, in self-awareness or lack thereof often manifests itself in seemingly stupidity, if that makes sense, where people will like come across as stupid and uneducated, even though that may not be the case, just because they don't have any self-awareness.
Right.
And that's a whole nother topic.
It is.
So we can for sure delve into that at a later time because, like I said, we'll be here till tomorrow morning if you start going down that
I think
road.
it's definitely one that we could talk about for hours. That's one we could go full Rogan on.
Yes.
Is, self-awareness in general.
Yep.
Just, and how, like you said, the lack of is, you hit the nail right on the head. It's killing our society.
Yep.
Let's just save it for next week.
So I guess let's make a mental note.
Yeah.
And because I can easily forget things, you can easily forget things. If we both try to remember, there's a little bit of a chance.
I'll put it in my calendar. We'll remember.
That will recollect that and make sure we bring it up next week. All right. So with that, we have come to the end of another episode of the Chasing Dreams podcast with Charlie and Justin. This has been episode 143. As always, we appreciate your listenership and we look forward to hearing back from you guys next week. Unbreakable, unstoppable, I push to the